Alright, what's going on, guys? It's Veracity, and I thought I'd go ahead and do this after every single big pay-per-view for the UFC, just because mostly there are not really that many games to play at the moment. So I'm kind of bored with that, and I was thinking, I don't really have any gameplays. I hate posting Fortnite, really, if it's just gameplay. And I haven't been playing COD recently, so I thought, what better way to just, break down these UFC events since, I really enjoy them. And I definitely want to incorporate these on my channel. So I'm going to break the main card. I'll put that up on my screen, which this is basically the pay-per-view, the undercard and the prelims. These are all free. You can watch them on ESPN and things like that. So we'll start with the first fight. We got Tiempo versus Ferreira. It was a good fight. It was the opening fight I started watching. I did watch a couple fights in the prelims as well, but I started watching to get up from my seat when that fight came on. I know a little bit about Ferreira from watching him fight on the prelims and undercard and past events. And, back in the day, even a couple previous fights, the most previous, he was mostly considered just a jiu-jitsu guy. If he could get it to the ground, that's a sweet spot. He wasn't the best kickboxer or Muay Thai fighter. So that's how I looked at him. That's how most people looked at him. But his Muay Thai work has been, really coming in clutch. It's evolved for sure. In the opening round, I thought it was going shitty for him. I thought it was the beginning of the end. And then it turned into a cardio battle. In the first round, he got dropped. He was getting hit with some clean straights from Tiempo. And then in the second round, it was slowing down. And it was basically just, cardio was not Tiempo conditioning. Conditioning was not his companion whatsoever. I don't know if that's, I don't know that guy very well. I don't know if that's the usual with him. He usually slowing down, or he was just, I don't know, doing some good kicks to the body that were really gassing him and just doing good work. That it was mostly Ferreira's fault as to why Tiempo was gassing. He was just doing good work. I'm not really familiar with him. But I saw it was the easy win for Ferreira. I don't think there was any controversy in that. I don't think people really cared. It wasn't a big fight, but I had it 2-1. Ferreira was just doing really good work. And then, in my opinion, one of the most exciting divisions as far as that top 5 goes, the heavyweight. There are a lot of old people out there, obviously, but the second fight on the main card was Blades versus this dude's name I'm not even going to fucking try to pronounce. I've been following Blades for quite a while. His first fight with Ngannou, ended in doctor stoppage. I've been paying close attention that far for that long, but I don't really enjoy watching him that much. He's not the most exciting fighter. I think he thinks he's a lot better than he actually is, even though I enjoy watching him and I like him. He's not my favorite. But, at the same time, I think he thinks he's better than he actually is. Not by a lot, it's whatever. But I saw this fight playing out this way. The other guy, I literally cannot pronounce his name. When you see the name, you'll know what I'm talking about. He's mostly a wrestler, and I knew that, there aren't many wrestlers in that division, if any, because he has the most takedowns in UFC history in that division. So I was like, there's not many people who are going to compete with him. Even though he's not the best technical wrestler, I think DC's better. Maybe not Stipe, but DC and Kane are definitely technically better. They just don't pursue the takedown nearly as much because DC, he ankle picked Derek Lewis. He high crotches a lot of people. He's just very dominant with the wrestling, but he likes the dirty box and stuff like that as well. Kind of like when he knocked out Stipe. But I really did see his pressure, his aggressiveness. Not many people can handle that in the heavyweight division. And that's what happened. Ends in the first round. Great ground and pound. He got hit with an uppercut when he tried to stand. For the little time he tried to stand, he got hit with an uppercut. So he gave up. He's like, fuck that. I'm not even going to try that. Took him back to the ground and just demolished him, which was really nice. If he loses his next fight, and in the midst of him losing his next fight, like if he lost this one, I would have liked to see Greg Hardy win 2 more and hopefully get put into that top 10 and face him. I just want to see him up against a good wrestler because he was going up against, I think, a decent grappler the fight before, and that dude was just fucking petrified. And, Greg went out there and dominated. So he's not on that level yet, and I don't want to, throw him in that conversation or make this about him because I'm not even that big of a fan of the guy, honestly. I don't think he's as good as certainly he thinks. Even though, I wouldn't say, he's delusional. He knows where he's at. He talks about how bad his jiu-jitsu is, but that's besides the point, Like I said, this fight was predictable. I mean, the ground and pound was pretty good. He's similar to Khabib. He's like the Khabib of this division. Slightly less dominant, But especially in the controlling, like he controls fairly well, but he'll let the person get back up, carry his weight, and then take him back down. So I expected that. Next we have we have Ramos versus Makhachev. Makhachev, especially in this stacked division, he is really good. He is especially a standout top 15. Like he's a lot better than everyone in that 10 to 20 range, in my opinion. I think there's some top guys that he can beat, maybe at the moment, but he definitely has the potential to beat someone like a Gaethje or a Ally Quinta. So I expected him to win this fight. They both are really good grapplers. I know Ramos has won some really good jiu-jitsu competitions like ADCC and things like that. But Makhachev is, he's got good sambo, just like everyone in Dagestan. So it was weird, I think they mentioned it on the commentary. It just looked like two grapplers who were willing to stand for a kickboxing match, and Makhachev was getting the better of it. It was really competitive, really close, and then the third round, opening of the third round, he knocks him down. And basically that's what won him the fight. The first two rounds could have went either way. I personally have Makhachev winning. All three, I'm pretty sure. But it was, I enjoyed the fight. I enjoy watching both of them fight. I enjoy the grapplers that, I'm not a big fan of Khabib, his fighting style. Like, I'm not a big fan of wrestlers. I'm a huge fan of jiu-jitsu fighters who actually actively chase submissions, like a Carlos Condit. Like you see him, even though he's not the best wrestler, he gets taken down like Michael Chiesa. But when he's on his back, he's constantly rolling for submissions. He'll just dive for submission. And I enjoy that as much as stand-up. I really do. We'll go ahead and move on to the co-main event. We had Edson Barboza versus Paul Felder. Personally, I was rooting for Paul Felder in this fight, but I didn't really give a fuck who won. Not that I didn't care about the fight. I really cared about this fight. I was pretty invested. I just like both the guys, and I think both the guys deserve it. Going into it, I thought Edson was going to win. His kickboxing, his Muay Thai is off the fucking charts. I mean, he's by far the best kicker the UFC has ever seen in any division. His kicks are, all you got to see is kick of Terry Edom, and just simple things like that. He's extremely explosive. He's like the as far as explosivity goes, even though he's a little bit more active than Yoel Romero, his explosivity is very similar, where he just explodes the flying knee, just explodes the punches and things like that. You also saw that against his most recent fight, where he just spinning back kick to the body, dropped him, and the fight was over at that point. I mean, it was insane. But personally, I gave the first round to Edson. I don't know how the fuck you can give a 30-27 to either fighter. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. And I don't know how that happened, because I thought even though Edson got a takedown in the second round, which definitely counts for something, he did no damage on the ground. He didn't chase any submissions. And Paul Felder was hitting him with some elbows that cut him up. He did the more damage. And it was not a good thing that he got the takedown. Like, the takedown did not help him. It made him worse. He was getting elbowed. He was bleeding, and he was almost got armbarred. He's getting put in some bad positions, all because of a rather, let's be honest, getting a takedown is a good thing, and we need to recognize that. But in this particular case, it was not. He was not getting the better of the position. He just was getting ate up with some elbows when he got nothing off. So that's why I gave that round. And then when they got up to the feet, I felt like it was competitive. I feel like Paul slightly edged him out. And in the third round, I thought was clear for Paul. He got more significant strikes. I thought he was the fresher fighter. And he was just throwing cleaner strikes, and he was throwing more strikes and hitting more strikes is what I noticed. So that's why I gave him that round. So ultimately, I gave it to Paul Felder, although I would not have been mad with the decision. When I heard the 30-27, I thought, okay, yeah, it's going to Edson Barboza, because I thought that the most lopsided round was the first one, even though it wasn't dominant or anything. Just Paul Felder was not really in that round. It seemed like for some reason he took it off. He wasn't throwing much, when Edson was clearly the busier fighter. And then we move on to the main event. Personally, I was rooting to Poirier, just to get that out of the way. Not because I don't like Khabib. I like Khabib a lot. He's, as far as respect goes, I've got a lot of respect for him. The way the UFC has used him to set up fights between, you know, like Alvarez and Conor and just, you know, bullshit that happened like that. I respect his story, his come up is super interesting. I really like the idea of these cross combat sport champions, where he was a Sambo champion, Sambo master at that. Now he's a UFC champion. But I was rooting for Poirier just because I don't like these dominant champions. You know, I want to mix up in a division. I don't want to see a constant champion. I think it's boring. And I don't like these undefeated fighters. You know, I don't like this boxing stigma. I like competitiveness. I like switching of the guard constantly. I really enjoy that. But with that being said, I thought Khabib would win. I thought it would be tougher, honestly. I thought around the third round, just kind of like Conor, where Conor was stuff at takedowns. Conor's grappling is very underrated. Like, his grappling is always good. It's just terrible when he's exhausted. And you saw that. It didn't really know. You can really tell that early in his career because he's getting submitted early in the rounds in his early career. But like against Nate Diaz, he got submitted early. But that's besides the point. Anyways, it just, by the first round, you saw what was going on where Dustin Poirier, when he was getting grafts, he could only defend the takedown for 10 seconds, 10, 15 seconds. And that was about it. After that, it was on his ass. Although he was attacking submissions, what I think is a smart thing. I think the problem with the fighters who fight Khabib, they instantly, they're thinking of a way to get up. They're not really listening to the coaches. Just all is in their mind is, how do I get my feet out from under this motherfucker? Which, you know, I'm not a fighter, so I don't know the policy prescription. I don't know the answer to all of this. But the way I look at it is, when he went for that guillotine, I was like, that's the smartest thing you could have done, especially when you're 2 rounds down, for sure. Maybe a 10-8 in there. Personally, I thought they were just 10-9s, but these are the judges who gave Paul Felder a 30-27, so who knows. So I thought, you know, go for the guillotine, because he never has fighters that attack submissions like crazy, that are insanely good off their back. You know, Conor's gotten a rear naked choke submission. But that's it, you know. None of these fighters that he fights, you know, we're not talking about a Tony Ferguson who will attack everything off their back. But with that being said, the guillotine was so close. I was so happy when I cinched up that guillotine, and when he got out of it, I was in shambles. I was so upset. But I don't know, like, honestly feel like even though Dustin got dominated, he showed a good blueprint. Like, he was doing good scrambles on the ground, and just Khabib's top control. I mean, the scramble neutralization, he neutralized his scramble so fucking well. Even though he only scrambled 2 or 3 times, they were just perfectly set scrambles out of bottom position, and he was just getting neutralized. And that was the most impressive part of the fight no one's talking about, is the way he just controlled Poirier's scrambles and the way he attacked the rear naked choke. I'm pretty sure that's the most I've ever seen him attack a choke. He probably got a neck crank on him 4 or 5 times before getting the actual choke inside of 3 rounds. But I saw when he reset his hands after he went for the 1 neck crank, he quickly cinched up that rear naked choke, and that was one of the tightest. As he's falling back, he cinches it up. He starts falling back. Khabib starts falling back to get, you know, back to back, or stomach to back with him while he's on his back. And he just cinged it up. And before he even got to that position, Dustin was already tapping. So when I saw that, I was like, yeah, it's over. But I don't know. I enjoyed the mess out of that. Even though I was upset, the post-fight really, you know, helped with it. Because, you know, even though these are just fights that have nothing to do with me, I am invested in these. Like, I want someone to win. And I get fairly upset when they don't. But I was really happy with the card itself. It wasn't the best card I've ever seen, not even better than the previous pay-per-view, but I enjoyed the mess out of it. And when they exchanged shirts at the end, that really made me happy. And they were talking about all the charitable stuff they were going to do. That really secured it for me, and I just enjoyed the fuck out of this card. So next card I'll break down for sure, and I'll just do this for every card since. So with that being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all later. Peace.
Thank you.